Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Master Duel Horus deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this one for you guys because we just got all the amazing Horus cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, which is super exciting because this deck is extremely powerful. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like your name, description, every single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're playing 3 copies of Imseti. Imseti is definitely a 3-of in the build because this card actually can search out King Sarcophagus, which is the most important card in the entire deck. And all of your Horus monsters, besides your copy of Horus the Black Flame Deity, actually share a common effect that if you control a copy of King Sarcophagus, you can special summon this card from your graveyard, which is a really cool ability. But this card is amazing because you can actually send 2 cards from your hand to the graveyard, including this card, to be able to add King Sarcophagus from your deck to your hand. Then you can also draw a card, which is a really powerful effect to be able to also get a draw off this card's ability. This card also has a really cool ability that if a card on your side of the field leaves the field while this card is in the monster zone, you can actually send a card from the field to the graveyard and it doesn't even target, which is absolutely amazing. We then play a single copy of Happy. Happy is really good as a 1-of in the build and has the ability if another card you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect while this card is in the monster zone, you can actually target 2 cards that are banished and or in the graveyards and either add both of them to the hand or shuffle them both into the deck, which is a really cool effect. And then we have a single copy of Blessing of Horus. Blessing is really good as a 1-of in the build. You only need a single copy of the other Horus names because you can get them in the graveyard extremely easily with King Sarcophagus, but this card gets absolutely massive because it gains 1200 attack and defense points for each Horus monster that you control. And if another card you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect while this card is in the monster zone, you can actually draw cards equal to the number of monsters with different names in your main monster zone, which is a crazy powerful effect because usually you're going to have 4 Horus monsters on your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Protection. Protection of Horus is also really good as a 1-of in the deck. I don't feel like you need any more than basically 1 of each of these cards because they're just really good at 1 in the deck because you can send them from deck to grave off of King Sarcophagus. But this card is really cool because if another card you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect while this card's in the monster zone, except during the damage step, you can activate this effect that this turn your opponent's monsters cannot target Horus monsters for attacks. Also, your opponent cannot target Horus monsters on the field with card effects, which is also a really powerful effect. We then play a single copy of Horus the Black Flame Deity. This card is super cool because it's actually a retrain of Horus the Black Flame Dragon level 8, which is so cool. But this card is actually insane. With the ability, if you control a copy of a Horus monster and King Sarcophagus, you can actually reveal this card in your hand and then send a card from your hand or field to the graveyard to be able to send a card on the field to the graveyard. And if a face-up Horus monster you control, except a copy of Horus the Black Flame Deity, or a copy of, and you have a copy of King Sarcophagus that you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand, then send all other monsters on the field to the graveyard, which is a really powerful effect. And if your opponent deals with either your copy of King Sarcophagus or a copy of one of your Horus monsters, you can just summon this card out and send every other thing to the graveyard, which is so cool. We then play 3 copies of Light and Darkness Dragon. This card is insane in the deck because you're going to be able to revive your Horus monsters from the graveyard every single turn, and this card negates the card every chain, which is absolutely insane. It is a mandatory effect to negate a card, which is really crazy for this card to be able to do, but it's super easy to tribute summon this card out to your side of the field by just summoning your Horus monsters back from the graveyard to your side of the field and then tribute summoning this card out to the field. It does lose 500 attack points for every time it negates, but that's totally fine because when you summon this card out to your side of the field, you can basically negate everything that your opponent's going to activate during their turn, which is really cool, and then bring back your Horus monsters to your side of the field to swing in for game. We then play 2 copies of Planet Pathfinder. Planet Pathfinder is really cool as a 2-of in the deck because your only normal summons in this deck is Light and Darkness Dragon and Planet Pathfinder, and this card helps you get to your copy of your field spell Walls of the Imperial Tomb, which is a very important card to be able to get to. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is really good as a 3-of just to stop your opponent from touching the deck. We then also play 3 copies of Maxi. Maxi is really good in the deck as a 3-of to basically just help us dig into the deck, and it's absolutely insane that this card is still at 3 in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, but it's a really good hand trap that's probably one of the most powerful cards ever made. We then play 2 copies of Cyframe Gear Gamma. This card is currently at 2 in Master Duel, but it's really good to be able to protect your Imseti plays as you're trying to be able to get to your copy of King Sarcophagus. And it's just a really awesome 2-of in the build to play alongside our copy of Driver. So we can actually go in for a Baron de Fleur by just basically synchro summoning these 2 into Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, and then using the copy of Gamma that we bring back off of Excel Synchro to step into a copy of Baron, which is really cool. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get in to the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Pot of Desires. Pot of Desires is currently at 1 in Master Duel, but this card is really good to help us dig into the deck to be able to basically draw 2 cards. Now, you always want to activate this card after you've gotten all 4 of your different Horus names into the graveyard, but it's still really good to be able to play in the build just to be able to dig into the deck for more hand traps and other cards like Floodgates. We then play a single copy of Crossout Designator just to make sure that we're not going to get hand trapped as we're going in for all of our plays. We also play 2 copies of Called by the Grave for the exact same reason, but these cards are really good just to stop your opponent's hand traps, which is really important. We then play 3 copies of Trade-In. Trade-In is really good to help us draw in this deck because you can basically discard any of the Horus names or a copy of Light and Darkness Dragon to be able to draw 2 cards, which is really good in this deck because you want to be able to get your Horus names into the graveyard, so this card is really powerful in the build. We then play 3 copies of Walls of the Imperial Tomb. This card is an amazing field spell. This card has the ability, this card's name becomes King Sarcophagus while on the field, which is a really cool effect to be able to use with this card to bring back your Horus monsters from the graveyard since you technically control a copy of King Sarcophagus. Also, during your main phase, you can add a Horus monster from your deck to your hand, then place a card from your hand on the bottom of the deck, which is a really cool ability to instantly be able to get to your copy of Imseti so we can get to King Sarcophagus, and this card has a really awesome ability that if you activate the effect of Horus the Black Flame Deity, you get to draw a card. We then play 3 copies of King Sarcophagus. The entire deck revolves around this card, and it is the most important card in the entire deck, because Horus monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects that do not target them. Also, you can send a card from your hand to the graveyard to send a Horus monster from your deck to the grave, and you can only use this effect of King Sarcophagus up to 4 times per turn, meaning we can get all 4 of the different Horus names into the graveyard besides Black Flame Deity, which you want in your hand anyways, to be able to get them in the grave so you can bring them back to our side of the field, which is really cool about this card. This card is amazing in the deck, and it also has the ability once per turn at the start of the damage step, if your Horus monster battles an opponent's monster, you can actually send that opponent's monster to the graveyard, which is absolutely insane. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get in to the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Skill Drain. This card is amazing in the deck because we summon back massive monsters to our side of the field, and this card is just really good at turning our opponent's monster effects off because at the end of the day with this deck, we just summon out 3,000 attack point Imsetis to our side of the field to swing in for game, so this card is really good as a 1-of. We then play a single copy of There Can Be Only One. There Can Be Only One is also really good as a 1-of in the build because all of our different Horus monsters are different types, so this card is really good to be able to use in this deck. We then play a single copy of Cantopic Protector. This card is really cool as a 1-of in the build. I don't feel like you need any more than a single copy of this card because it has the ability once per chain, when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can actually special summon a Horus monster from your hand or grave. But for the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon monsters with the same original name by the effect of Cantopic Protector, and if this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, you can set this card but banish it when it leaves the field, which is a really cool effect to be able to instantly put this card back on your side of the field. We then also play 3 copies of Summon Limit. This card is still at 3 in Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, which is why we play this card as a 3-of in the build, because we can summon out all our monsters to our side of the field, and then during the opponent's turn, flip this card up, and our opponent's only gonna have 2 monsters, we're gonna have 4 Horus monsters on our side of the field, or at least a copy of like a Light and Darkness Dragon on our side of the field, and this card is just really good overall in the deck to be able to lock down the opponent. So, that's it for the main deck, guys. let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with a single copy of the Zombie Vampire. This card is really good to be able to make in this deck because when it's summoned out to your side of the field, both players send the top 4 cards of their deck to the graveyard, and then this card can actually bring back a monster that was sent to the graveyard by this card's effect to your side of the field, which is an insane ability. We then play a single copy of number 38. 38 is a spell negate, which is why I play this card as a 1-of in the build. We then play a single copy of number 90. Number 90 is also really good because this card is a walking negate, which is why I play this card as a 1-of in the build. We then play a single copy of Coach King Giant Trainer. This card is awesome in the deck because it's very easily a draw 3, as all you have to do is detach a material in this card, draw a card, and reveal it, and if it's a monster, inflict 800 points of damage to your opponent, but you cannot conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this effect. But it's really insane because you can activate this card up to thrice per turn, meaning you can detach all 3 materials from this card to draw 3 cards, and then inflict a total of about 2,400 damage to your opponent, or just get a draw 3, which is really nice. We then play a single copy of Dingirsu. Dingirsu is just a good option because when it's summoned to your side of the field, it sends a card from the field to the graveyard, which is really nice. Plus, this card is really good to help you step into a copy of Zeus. We then play a single copy of Sky Prison. Sky Prison is awesome in the deck as 1-of, just as a good option that you can make in this build. We then play a single copy of Pain Gainer. Pain Gainer is really good. It's basically like a Downer Magician-like monster for the deck that you can actually XZ summon this card using a rank 8, 9, or 10 dark monster that you control with 2 or more XZ materials attached to it, just giving you an additional material for your copy of Zeus. Speaking of Zeus, we also play a single copy of Zeus just to board wipe the field. This card helps out a lot in the deck. We then play a single copy of Baron. Baron is insane that this card is in Master Duel, but it's really good to be able to use this card as a negate. And it's also easy to step into this card using Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon with a copy of Gamma, which is really insane that you can basically just summon out a copy of Gamma and Driver, negate something, then use Gamma and Driver to make Excel Synchro, and then step into a copy of Baron by bringing out the copy of Gamma off the Excel Synchro's effect. We then play a single copy of Access Code because it comes out absolutely massive and OTKs your opponent extremely easily. 1 copy of Selene because M-Study is a spellcaster, so you can bring it back to your side of the field, then Link Climb into your copy of Access Code. Play a single copy of the Dark Charmer. Dark Charmer is really good in the deck because we do play a lot of darks. Play a single copy of SP Little Knight because it's insane that we finally have this card in Master Duel, and it's really good to be able to summon out to your side of the field because it's a double interruption. We then play a single copy of IP. IP is also really good as a 1-of, so we can make SP during the opponent's turn. So that's gonna do it for this one, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. This deck is super fun. I highly recommend, if you guys have not played Horus in Master Duel, you definitely should give this deck a try because it's really fun to be able to play, and it's absolutely crazy the potential of this deck. I'm gonna be making some other builds of this deck soon on the channel with different engines included in with the Horus cards, so definitely be on the lookout for that. So that's gonna do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell next to come for our notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.